Asheville. All right, Asheville. Good. Serge, can you hear us? Serge, where are you?
I'm here. I hear you guys loud and clear. I can see you. Let me see if I can see everybody else.
Okay.
Hey, great to see everybody.
Now, Serge, do I understand you're coming to see some girlfriend in the end of August here in Miami? Or is that a rumor?
No, that's just a rumor. I'm coming to see family and coming to see your beautiful smiling face.
Ah, all right. That's not well. All right, let's see what we got here now. We just had Chris Diaz. Chris Diaz was just here a moment ago. Okay, let's go around and say hello one more time. We got Rick here. God, what is that on your face? You've turned into a mountain boy. What is that?
That's when you work too much and you don't have time to shave, so you just let the hair keep growing.
Like the Foggy Mountain Boys banjo group.
Look at I like Rick's stash. I like that. I dig it. All right. There you go, Rick.
Hopefully that beard doesn't make you a man of constant sorrow, though.
I do have a goatee too, but you can't see it.
Oh, there we go. I see it. Nice.
Rascal Flats.
It's my woman repellent. That's what I'm using it as.
All right, explain that again very quickly for us.
I don't have all I'm doing is working. I don't have time for right now. I'm just working, so I don't have time for.
Explain about the woman repellent.
Because I'm going to Miami to visit you, and but I don't want any distractions in Miami that'll want to make me stay in Miami. So, because I love Asheville, North Carolina, so I'm gonna come back for sure.
And you're saying women don't like the beard on you, and so that's going to repel the women showing any interest.
Exactly.
Serge
Smart, right?
Serge is pioneering a new form of birth control.
There we go.
Oh, Lord, this is too much. It's August.
They're gonna make you shave if you don't be careful.
No clippers. I'll keep the clippers away.
All right, let's see what we got here going around. We got Rick.
Roy in Miami. Look at that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Or
Rick,
in New York? Wait, is he in New York?
First time.
Oh, nice. Awesome. And Pat, everybody in Miami. All right. I love it. Look at the trio
there. 3 Musketeers. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. 4, actually.
Four.
We call it the Sullivan Sister Sandwich. Yeah.
Love it.
All right, Rick, is Judy with us this morning or is she away?
No, she's away.
Okay, we got Rick here. We've got Donald Grimmy. We've got Pat, Roy, and Maureen. Now, if I remember correctly, Roy, you grew up with these two?
Well, I grew up, I went to high school with
that's what it was. High school. Okay. Okay, we've got Felix is here today.
14 years ago.
John Sloan is here, and Chris is usually somewhere in right there. Okay. Around. All right. Serge is here looking like something from Rascal Flats. Kay Schweitzer is here. Cecilia is here. Danny Sorkin is here. Sharing with us, it was 77 degrees. Miami has not seen 77 degrees in years. That's what it seems like. So welcome, everybody. Good morning. Let's talk about you're raising your hands. Pat, what are you raising your hands about?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're watching the U.S. versus France women's basketball game, and it's been like a neck and neck.
They're playing so badly. I mean,
okay, here we
France is terrible people. Yes, me.
All right, here we go. Serge is from Asheville. You might want to know something that brag about Serge. His store finished in the top 25 stores all over the United States for T-Mobile last month, which was incredible considering it was literally at the bottom of the heap or almost, and went all the way up, way up to the top 25. Big shout out. Roy decided to visit from Bellingham and became a hippie and spent the night in the airport. Spent the night in the airport. He'll be recovering sooner than he to take a longer while to recover. Besa had a medical emergency, and I found this out on Friday, so the music today is a bit strange. I want to thank Andrea, who by osmosis loaned me some readings for putting this all together at the last minute. Coming up, by the way, we've got Andrea at the end of the month, Larry in the beginning of September, and Michelle at the end of September. So we're all set to go. Naki begins in September, dealing with us with marginalized people in our midst and how we learn to better care and identify marginalized. And there are a lot of marginalized categories which we'll be introduced to and go over. So he'll be joining us for at least 2, possibly 3 semesters as our seminarian from Meadville, Lombard. Okay, the music today, some of you have seen the t-shirt. My defense is I was left unsupervised. You may have seen that t-shirt. Maureen has that on regularly, so does Roy. I was left unsupervised. My defense. When you see it, if you listen carefully, if you listen very carefully, there is a Moravian group doing a very, very lovely instrumental of I Saw the Light. Right before it begins, a cow moves. That cow was taken from Maureen's backyard. You'll hear the cow. You'll see. You can actually hear the cow. All right. Danny Sorkin wants that here. It really says, in my defense, I was left unsupervised. Good morning, Nikki Lindquist. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Nikki.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Finally, let me remind everybody, Nikki, why are you smiling so nicely? What trouble have you gotten into? Nobody
I'm always
smiles
smiling.
like that. Nobody smiles like that unless you've been up to something. What have you done?
Always smiling.
That's scary. Always smiling. Always. All right. And Chris Diaz made it in. By the way, I want to share with you, it's funny what you don't realize something can't happen unless you see something. I'm talking about, we did a celebration of life last week, and I needed to hold a book and some stuff, and there was no way to access a microphone. Chris stood beside me the entire service holding the microphone. Without Chris, the service wouldn't have been the same thing. It's one of those things you never realize. Somebody's holding a microphone the whole time, and you don't realize that without that happening, the service couldn't have gone on. Nobody would have been able to hear anything. So I want to thank Chris again, another shout out. I said,
You're very welcome.
And he was just right there to help. Really appreciate it. Okay. All right, everybody. Lynn, you're visiting with us. Who is Lynn Viviank? Lynn, say hello to us. Lynn, are you there? Okay, Lynn, we say good morning to you. Let me remind everybody, in the middle of the summer, giving is off from time to time. People forget. Remember, we are year-round. We don't stop in the summer. We do not stop in the summer. We have a full schedule in the fall. Services, book club continues every Saturday. Connections continues, and we're going to have a Naki with us dealing with people who are marginalized. Every month there'll be programs, so we have a full program for the fall. Good morning. I see Chris Sloan. Good morning, Chris. And Lynn Viviank is visiting with us this morning too. All right, our memorial candle this morning. A day ago, a missile struck a school with a bunch of kids and adults. It was where 6,000 Palestinians were holding forth to just mind their own business and stay out of it. And the Israelis struck it and killed 80 kids and innocent people. Enough already. There is no way to excuse killing innocent children again and again and again and again. And so I understand that Hamas is obviously bad and awful. That's not even a debate. Trying to get rid of the state of Israel isn't a debate. But killing innocent kids over and over and over again is a debate, is a debate, and it's not right. So for all the innocents everywhere that have died this last week, we light the memorial candle in their honor and hold them close. And before we continue with our music, Cindy and Larry Deach are with us. They're from Port Orange. Good morning, Cindy and Larry. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you both. And to reflect on instant things that are happening in our country in a different kind of way, let's begin with some joy. From Johnny Diaz, we begin the service, Joy. I would invite you to join reading with me the Call to Worship by Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not just a building or an address. It is a people of the world, in the world, doing the work of welcome, healing, and thriving. The church is a person greeting a person greeting a person. All ages and genders and abilities connecting. A community forged in truth, faith, and love. The church is the experience of our hearts, prying open the doors of radical welcome. The church is not just a building, a steeple, or a pew. The church is the coming together of the people and their experiences, of their fears, loves, and hopes, saying to anyone who hears us, welcome. Lay down your heartache, grab hold of some hope. Selah. And for those of you who wish if you would join me in saying a morning prayer, toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illumined souls who form the embodiment of the universe, the spirit of guidance. Well, there you go. Some great music. We're remembering this in honor of Serge's beard and Barbara Young's out in the western part of Virginia. Yes, those were cousins, Moravians, playing some good old-fashioned music. A reading this morning from Rachel Evans. The thing about healing, as opposed to curing, is that it is relational. It takes time. It is inefficient, like a meandering river. Rarely does healing follow a straight or well-lit path. Rarely does it conform to our expectations or resolve in a timely manner. Walking with someone through grief or through the process of reconciliation requires patience, presence, and a willingness to wander to take the scenic route. And if you do a responsive reading with me this morning and read the part in green, may I be no one's enemy, and may I be the friend of that which is eternal. May I wish for everyone's happiness and every none. I must have typed that wrong. Okay, may I never rejoice in the ill fortune of one who has wronged me. May I give aid and comfort to all who are in need or want. May I never fail a friend. May I never fail myself. May I know people honestly and seek to be known honestly. May I be remembered to be kind. May I forgive those who injure me, whether they do or not. May I be forgiven by those I injure. Thank you. I want to thank Andrea for the readings today. This is another one of her readings from a book I've never heard before. It's called The Ragamuffin Gospel, and it speaks, I think, to just about everybody here. When I get honest, I admit I am a bundle of paradoxes. I believe and I doubt. I hope and get discouraged. I love and I hate. I feel bad about feeling good. Let me read that again. I feel bad about feeling good. I feel guilty about not feeling guilty. I'm trusting and suspicious. I am honest and I still play games. Aristotle said I'm a rational animal. I say I'm an angel with an incredible capacity for beer. In my case, not anymore. To live by grace means to acknowledge my whole life story, the light side and the dark. In admitting my shadow side, I learn who I am and what God's grace means. Let me say that this is one of the things that I warn you all about. If I get stuck with having to do a service on a moment's notice, you're going to get stuck with all kinds of weird things, like cousins playing banjos, Glee Christmas music, John Denver. I mean, and we're going to finish up on Rick Springsteen in Belfast. I mean, it's the way it is. So we start this morning with the date of 1968. And if anybody here tells me they weren't around in 1968, I'll turn you into a hairball. Felix, be careful now. 1968. Does any of you remember? I don't even ask that question. Well, I'll ask anyways. Anybody even remember what the most popular show in American television was with 1968 and 1969? Does anybody remember? Anybody? Anybody want to take a wild guess? What did you say, Rick? Unmute.
Laughing.
Oh, go away. You just ruined everything.
Ed Sullivan?
No, laughing. Rhoda Martin's
Yeah,
laughing.
I said it first, but I was
I
muted.
said it, but I was muted.
All right, there we go. I see this. I'll toss this stuff out right now. Okay. 1968, Laugh-In. And on Laugh-In, they introduced, are you ready for this? The flying fickle finger of fate.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, the flying foul fickle finger of fate. And people really did not like this because it reminded them that we do not talk about, we do not think about, and we do not discuss that four-letter word that begins with an F, fate. We do not discuss fate. And why don't we discuss fate? Because doggone it all, we are in control. Let us be very clear about that. We are in control. Yes. Reminds me of seeing one of the ugliest paintings I've ever seen in an AA room. And this thing was enormous. And it said under it, denial is not a river in Egypt. It was the ugliest painting of the Nile River you ever saw. Denial is not a river in Egypt. Yes, we don't talk about fate exists, as you well know. I went to AI, 3 different ones, and I love the word they did not mention, fate. They mentioned, guess what? I like this word, unpredictables. How's that a kind word? Unpredictable rather than smacking you in the face with the word fate. Now, to help us with the kinds of unpredictables you and I face, I looked at Microsoft Copilot, which should make you all feel relaxed somewhat, and then, unfortunately, my own observations. Yes, again, in my defense, I was left unsupervised. So, some things, according to Microsoft's AI, that are unpredictables for you and I. Fate. Health issues, financial problems, relationship struggles. I like that, relationship struggles. Struggles doesn't even touch relationship issues. What do you think telenovelas are so successful? Telenovelas make billions of dollars a year on relationship struggles, drama like you can't believe. Jane Austen alive and well. Relationship struggles, that's too mute. Work-related stress. Everybody here, I am sure, has had at least one, certainly 2 bad jobs, really bad. In fact, the first bad job I had, I knew it was so awful that I lost my sense of humor. When you lose your sense of humor, for somebody like me, that's like losing your soul. Seriously. I got chest pains, neck pains, and couldn't crack a joke. To me, that was the antidote to life. Loved ones, they left out pets. Loss of loved ones, how could you leave out pets? To show you AI makes mistakes. By the way, at the end of every AI thing you get, it says AI does make mistakes and sometimes get things wrong. They got this wrong. Loss of loved ones. Accidents. Mental health issues. Yes, that would mean all of us. Natural disasters. Daily hassles. Now here's again where AI botched it. Minor annoyances like traffic jams. Obviously, the person who put this together had not been in Miami for a very long time. Now, I add two things to this. Failure. Americans cannot and will not tolerate failure. I've always been fascinated by this. Some of you may have remembered I was elected by the 50,000 member student body at FIU to give the very last lecture. And that last lecture was called FISH, Failure, Imagination, Strengths, and Humor. And I started out with failure, and I said I was always amazed that that which teaches you the most gets denigrated the most as well. God forbid you fail something. My soul, you fail something, it's like you're exiled to know. It's like losing your phone or worse. Yet how do we learn the most? Is through failure. It is one of those blessings in disguise. It is annoying. I used to remember people saying, this is a learning experience. Did you ever hear the phrase, this is a learning experience? And it always meant pain. It always meant some kind of awful feelings, but you learned. At least most of us tried to learn. So failure is one thing we need to add to our unpredictables, fate and suddens, sudden car accidents, sudden health issues. Oh, and then there's the very famous one with relationship struggles. I don't know if you've ever been the recipient of the famous phrase, it's not you, it's me. Have any of you ever remembered, maybe you've never had that phrase to you, it's not you, it's me. And I can't tell you how many people have been to see me for counseling over the years, and they said, you know, Kenneth, I said that phrase and really thought it was a good phrase until somebody said it to me. Yes, that is one of those things, the gift that keeps on giving. It's not you, it's me. Suddens of any kind. Things catch us off guard and they make us uncomfortable. Again, health issues. I keep on thinking of the times in which things happened and you were not prepared for it. I never expected, for instance, to get a virus in my heart. That time on Christmas season, 1984, I did 2 Christmas Eve services. I had swollen up, gotten sick, went back and did another one, swelled up, and checked myself into the hospital. And at 3:30 in the afternoon, the nurse came and said to me, you don't look well. How are you feeling? And I said, I have a terrible pain in my stomach. They rushed me up to a cardiac intensive care. And this is the kind of thing you can't make up. They have a monitor on me, and the doctor comes over and says, you're in a lot of pain. I said, I'm in tremendous pain. And the monitor went flat and goes beep. Now, nobody's prepared for that. You know, when the monitor goes flat, you're not supposed to hear it. And you're not supposed to continue. And I use several words that we cannot repeat in a sermon, the gist of which says, if I'm dead, how come I'm experiencing so much pain? I thought the whole point of being dead is you didn't have pain anymore. Then I went out. You know, you don't expect that stuff when you don't expect. Nobody expects that. I mean, seriously. And so the kinds of things it's you know, and we all get that. The time that you're in Miami-Dade County, driving, minding your own business, or New York, minding your own business, and somebody slams in the back of somebody else who slams in the back of somebody else, and 10 cars later, you're flattened out like a pancake. Relationship struggles, I like that. Financial problems. I was accepted for a doctorate at Vanderbilt, and they had no job openings. So I took a small congregation in Saugus, Massachusetts. It was a fun, interesting congregation, but they had no money. So I wound up, nobody knew this. I never told this story. I did manual labor. I did construction labor for 2 years. Concrete form work, you know, where they have a basement and they have forms, and forms you put concrete between the forms. Skinny little me learned to balance 12-foot concrete form pieces of plywood and stuff. Yes, I worked because we had no money. And it was very interesting being poor, being really poor, not being able to pay one bill to the other. And so I'm saying, you know, and people who've been hardship, they know, they'll tell you what it's like to be poor. And my guess, everybody here has at one time or another faced financial issues of some sort. Work-related stress. I think, as I said, everybody usually had a bad job or two. I remember when I was in Chicago and I left and feeling that I had made a mistake. I don't know how I did such a bad job. So when they called me to come back to do the 50th anniversary, I went back not because I wanted to do the 50th anniversary. I went a week early to see how I could have messed up so bad. And it turns out all the problems that I thought I caused were still there and had been there before I got there. The mistake I made is I did not ask the right questions when interviewing. Like, how come every minister before me got sick? How come all of them had stress-related issues? Never asked those questions. So the issue was, the mess up I made was not asking the right questions before I went. Accidents, mental health issues, natural disasters. Oh, we know all about those. The question in all this, how do you get through it? How do you, each of you, get through the stuff that happens? The question is, what grounds you? Judy Homer said to me, you know, I get questions from time to time. What do you believe? What am I supposed to do? I said, I would turn the question around and say, don't ask me what I believe. Why don't you tell me what grounds you? What gets you through all the stuff? Now, let me be very, very clear. I do not think there is one answer to that. I think each person has to figure out what path works for them, given what they are, who they are, and what they bring to the table. We are an odd mix of genetics, of how we are raised, and our own individual putting it all together. Does that make sense to everybody? There are things that you have genetically. Then you are raised. Yes, I said to my brother, some of us are raised interestingly. My wife is very annoying. She had a mother that was the nicest, most loving mother I've ever met. In fact, I adopted her to be my mother. In fact, I'll never forget, we were at this party a year after Maria and I married, and her mother calls me over and says, Kenneth, gives me a big hug. Emily never gave me hugs. Gives me a big hug and a kiss, and she says, finally, I have a son who makes me laugh. Finally, and gives me big hugs. We're raised differently. I said to my brother, you know, it's amazing how some people survive their parents. Others of you have great parents. Some of us did not. They were interesting. What grounds you? What gets you through? What is the genetics you bring? How are you raised? And then how do you put that all together in the thing that is you? And so I would not have the audacity to tell you what it is that grounds you, but I have some questions for you. Because I don't think we take this seriously enough. I saw a very, very interesting thing happen a week ago. We had a celebration of life for Adam. There was an incredible group of very, very mixed people in terms of ethnicity, religion, and thoughts. Name an idea, name an opinion, name a religion, name a religious thought. They were all there. And it was an example of different things ground different people. But I would ask you, as you begin to re-question again, and I'm asking you to think if you do a tune-up. My students don't like the word therapy. Nobody likes the word therapy. You need therapy and everybody freaks out. Am I right? You hear the word therapy, everybody freaks out, unless you're a certain age. No, even if you're a certain age, you freak out. Nobody says you like to go see a counselor. No. I use the word tune-up. Everybody seems to like the word tune-up. That makes sense. You tune up your car, you tune up yourself. That makes sense. So I'm asking you today to think about what to do a tune-up today. What is that grounds you, and is it a healthy grounding? Let me ask some questions. I have a 7. Now, what's a 7? When you look at books on Buddhism, you find you have a 4 this, a 3 this, a 2 that. Well, I have a 7 for you. Number 1, in asking what grounds you, I'm asking you to ask yourself, is it good? There are all kinds of things people do to get them through. When bad things happen to good people, what gets you through? And a lot of times, stuff that gets you through is not good. There are certain liquids that are fermented with certain tubers and other botanicals that, drunken in excess all the time, may get you through, but it will end in disaster. There are certain powders that can be rearranged, snorted and snooted and tooted that will also get you through. And the end result oftentimes is what gets you through. Is it good, or is it toxic, badly addictive, and even fatal over time? Is what gets you through, is it good? And I'm asking you to be honest with yourself. Is it good? Number 1. Number 2, what works for you does not mean it's going to work for something else. And too often we tend to forget that. I have no idea what works for Roy. I have no idea what works for Nikki. I have no idea what works for Chris Lee, but things work for them. But just because it works for them does not mean it's going to work for me. And what works for me is not going to work for other people as well. In other words, we need to honor our individual paths. And if I can learn something from you, isn't that wonderful? But it is not mandatory. The idea of a congregation like this, for instance, is to say we each have paths, and if we can learn from something, isn't that a blessing? But just because it works for me does not mean it's going to work for you. Number 3, does what works for you allow you to do your thing? Now, what do I mean by allow you to do your thing? Some of you like to meditate. Let me say very kindly, and I really let loose on this in my class when I talk about meditation. Let me say that slowly. Not everybody is genetically programmed to sit still and meditate. Do we have that once and for all, everybody? Do you get that? Not everybody can sit still and meditate. The Hindus were right. Guess what equals meditation? Exercise. That's exactly right. If you do a study biologically of what happens when you meditate, and you do a study of what happens to you when you exercise, it's the same thing in your brain and your body. Yes, or you can do both. Sometimes when you have bad things happen, you need to go through a process. You need to scream, yell, stomp up and down. Is what gets you through allow you to do your thing. Some of you get depressed. Some of you cry. Some of you withdraw. And then you get through all of it. But you have to do your thing. Is what good for you? Does it let you do your thing without feeling guilty? I am not a very pleasant person when I get hit with suddenness and stuff. I have to scream and shout for 5 minutes. I have to jump up and down. I have to swear at the world and everything else, and I get through it. Don't deprive me of my drama for 5 minutes of being totally obnoxious and annoying. But you get through it. Is what's good for you, does it let you do your thing without guilt? Number 4, when we were at the service last Saturday, I asked everybody there, I said, is it not true that when you have a celebration of life, a lot of times you ask why? And there are other things that go wrong in our lives, and you ask why. And the big question is, why did bad things happen to good people? Why? And then I said, I've lived more than 3/4 of a century. That's a scary thought, me being around 3/4 of a century to annoy everybody. I have lived more than 3/4 of a century, and I've come to the conclusion there are some questions that have no suitable answers. You can't stem science, technology, engineering, and math, everything. Not everything has a suitable and appropriate answer, and sometimes there are no questions as to the why. There just aren't. Oh, there are answers, but down deep, you just don't believe them. And that's okay. It's okay not to have an answer. It's okay. Number 5, some of you have found that what gets you through and works, you can't talk about it. William James gave a series of lectures called the Gifford Lectures in 1901 in Edinburgh, Scotland. These ultimately will be put in a book called Varieties of Religious Experience. And in these, he takes a look at religious experiences that people have. And if you don't like the word religious, think of some other word that substitutes for it. Don't let the word get in the way. But sometimes there are things that happen to you and me we just can't explain. I mean, we know what we felt. It was overwhelming, and it was powerful, and it was good. And it got us through. But words just don't work. Does anybody get what I'm talking about this? That sometimes the words just don't work. They just don't. You can't, if I'm making sense to anybody here, am I making sense? You felt something. It's powerful. And the words just don't work. I've tried. Once when I was in Port Orange, several times, 3 or 4 times when I was in Port Orange, we had healing services because I heard this was a very powerful thing for people. And so we tried it. And basically what I did is people came forward and I would touch them on their shoulders or on their head. And I said, whether this is for you or for someone that you hold close, may there be a healing sense of power and goodness. May it be so. That's all I said. Now, again, this is not going to work. I'm trying so you'll understand the frustration I have. It was very clear this was not me. I said the words, but people responded to a person saying that was powerful. I don't know what you did. It wasn't me. All I'm just simply saying is I was trying to offer that there might be a sense of healing and presence that you might not be aware of, and it's there. That's all I was trying to do. And I found myself kind of being a conduit. And I never had that expression before or that feeling. And it freaked me out. It freaked me out. People looked at me and said, I said, I didn't, look, one of the problems I've had in the ministry, honestly, is I don't come across as a very holy person. I've never set out to be the reverend or the holy one or somebody who is, I believe that very simply I've had a call. I mean, lots of people have calls. People have calls to be plumbers. People have calls to be electricians. People have called to build. People have different calls. And for some reason that I couldn't understand, I was offered a pre-law scholarship. I don't know if you knew this. I had an appointment to the U.S. Air Force Academy. I didn't go. I didn't want to fly. I felt I had a call to be that person in the village who read the texts, understood the necessity of rituals, and felt that was my role. But I did not, and I never have seen it making me any different than anybody else. Now, nobody gets that. I don't get it. Claus, you're different. I'm not different. I'm still Kenneth. Still the annoying mess that I've always been. But for some strange reason, I'm called to help work with text and to help gather communities and help with rituals. I don't know why, but that's what I do. But it doesn't make me any holier than anybody else. Everybody has got possibilities. Everybody's got the holy within them. You might want to call it enlightenment. Pick a different word. And so this healing thing just overwhelmed me. And then I keep on mentioning the time of 2 a.m. Christmas morning, 1994 in rehab, where I went voluntarily and I had an experience. And the words don't work. And that's why I'm still with you today. It was clear my alcohol addiction had ruined my first career, but I was grateful for the chance, thanks to somebody here this morning, that I voluntarily went and got it sorted out. Never, ever expecting to know what the future would be, but I knew it wasn't the ministry. And so I found myself, weirdly enough, being a college teacher. Who knew? I certainly didn't. and found out, oddly enough, I was good at it. And then All Souls comes along, and I cannot explain this to this day. Who can explain 2006 Easter when a bunch of people gathered to try what it would like to have a service that was open and caring on Easter and not exclusive and dogmatic and doctrinally oriented? Then they wanted to meet again in May. I said, why? Because we missed what we did in Easter. And then comes September, can we meet again? And somehow I got called back. And to this day, I don't understand it. Don't understand it all. There are things that happen to us. The words don't work. Am I right? Do you know that? They just don't work, but you feel it powerfully. You feel it powerfully. Number 6. Does what ground you act as the antidote so that when bad things happen, you do not become seduced by resentment, grievance, and bitterness? One of the things that is the darkest thing in human nature is resentment, bitterness, and grievance, and it can suck the soul out of you and make you a very diseased person. Physically often, but your whole attitude becomes diseased. And you can tell when somebody's like that, can't you? You know that. When somebody is just so loaded with anger and resentment and grievance, you can feel it. Am I right? Have you ever noticed that? You can feel it. And so I'm asking is what grounds you? Does it act as an antidote? So you look forward. You ground yourself. You accept what's going on. You work through it and you look forward and you open yourself up to new opportunities and possibilities. And lastly, number 7, what grounds you? Does it give you an attitude of gratitude? I am sick and tired of people complaining about it. Are you alive today? Hello, look at yourselves. Are you alive? Is everybody here alive? I'm not sure we have any zombies in us. Are you naked? No, thank heavens. Nobody here is naked. The Lord be praised. You have clothes. You're alive. You're healthy. You have abilities to think and feel and be. What more can you ask for? And some of you have pets to get you through. Have you been grateful for them? Where would we be without pets? So I'm just asking you, do you have an attitude of gratitude? Whatever it is that gets you through when bad things happen, do you wind up with an attitude of gratitude? Are you able to start the day thanking that you have one more day in front of you, and may it be so? So in the foul, fickle finger of fate, that which we do not like to discuss, the unpredictables, come and it arrives too often. What gets you through? May it be good and kind and loving and powerful and ground you in love and gratitude. As the old saying goes, may it be so. May it be so. Amen. A carpenter from an obscure village called Nazareth will have a calling and will visit with and be with John the Baptist and his group. And then he'll take his calling and go out amongst the poor. People who have no advocate, nobody to pay any attention to them, the poor, the unfortunate, the sick, and the suffering. And again, he would break bread with them, be with them, tax collectors, lepers, all the sorts of publicans and sinners, offering them love love. Come unto me, all that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For all today who need a moment of love, a moment of affirmation, we offer the most simple of things, simple bread and a simple cup. That in the bread and cup we may symbolize the most basic elements of love and affirmation, loving and affirming you all. No matter where you are on your journey, no matter what has happened to you today, come, feel welcomed, feel part of us. We are all with you. Even on our own journeys, we are somehow magically linked in love and respect. Please repeat these words after me if you would. Promise me you'll remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrows, sun without rain. But the divine did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. And please join with me, if you wish, a concluding prayer. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector of those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without a light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need, for as long as space endures and for as long as living beings remain. Until then, may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. Amen.
Do you know what's really fun? Making a website on Wix.
A blessing that's an old Irish blessing and a Hindu blessing combined. And now may the road rise to meet you, and may the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and may the rains fall softly upon your fields. And when we meet again, may the divine in me greet and embrace the divine in you. Go in peace. Amen. Well, thank you all for being here this morning. Thank you so, so much. In August, and All Souls still turns out in August, where it is a tad warm, except in New York City. Gail and Tom, you missed this morning. New York City is only 77. Yes, I know, yes. Thank you, Grimmy. Thank you for tech. Thank you, Felix, for being here. John and Christine, thank you from Port Orange. Gail and Tom from Port Orange. Let's see, we've got Pat Sullivan and from New York, and we've got, you're gonna love this, Roy is here in town in Miami from Bellingham, Washington. He spent the night in Denver Airport all night being a hippie. He spent the night. And Maureen is here. Rick Homer's here. Nikki Lindquist is here from Cutler Bay. Serge is here from Asheville, North Carolina. Kay is here. Cecilia from down the street. Danny Sorkin from New York. Barbara Young played some banjo music for you, Barbara. Chris Diaz, who enabled me to put together a service last week, and thank you, Chris. Cindy and Larry Deach, also from Port Orange, and Chris Lee from Taiwan. Thank you all. Blessings to you all. We see you in a couple of weeks. And don't forget, we've got a big fall coming up. We've got a big fall coming up. Anaki will be with us for 2 semesters, maybe 3, working with how we work with marginalized people everywhere. Blessings to you all. Be safe and well. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 All right.